Welcome to our MarineAndReef.com Marine and Reef video. My name is David.
This is Jaron.
And today we're going to talk about where do you get your aquarium info and information about how to set up and maintain and thrive with an aquarium. All right, just a little bit about what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about all the various places you may get the information to make your decisions regarding your aquarium. So the first thing we'll talk about is friends and family. Always nice to have a friend or a family member who knows something about aquariums or thinks they know something about aquariums to help you out. Then we got local fish groups. We got books, which kind of, for obvious reasons, are kind of being replaced by the internet a little bit. And then we have online forums and message boards, obviously YouTube videos. I guess YouTube is not an absolute monopolist, but we just call them YouTube videos.
Yeah.
What's the other end? Vimeo or video?
It's everything else.
Everything else.
YouTube.
Yeah. All right. Then we, of course, have internet retailers such as MarineAndReef.com. And then we have, not just the information on their websites, but also the product reviews. And then we have manufacturers who, given from the, when we ask somebody to contact a manufacturer, usually they don't want to. They would rather go to the dentist, but in many cases, the manufacturer knows more than anybody else. So, and I forgot, of course, with every podcast, with every video, Sel, has to make a contribution. So today she's going to talk about what Taylor Swift knows about aquariums and any advice Taylor Swift has about aquarium maintenance. So we're going to tack that on to the end, and I guarantee you it's going to be the highlight of the show.
She's a lot smarter than you think, okay?
Did I say she isn't? Come on.
Stare directly into the sun. That doesn't sound very, very wise to me.
Okay, look. This
All right. All right, the first resource for aquarium knowledge, and perhaps it's apparent, would be friends and family. So, did you have friends or family who knew or thought they knew something about aquariums?
Well, when I got into the aquarium hobby, I was a fifth grader, and I think I probably just did whatever my parents / the people at the big box pet stores told me. When I first got into reef aquariums, my mom had told me she'd always dreamed of having a reef aquarium. And we went to all the local stores and we looked at all the stuff, and she brought a bunch of books home and then said, "I'm not going to do that." And I said, "Well, then I'm going to do that." So the advice that my friends and family gave me was, don't do that. It's not worth doing. So I don't know, Dave. I probably am pretty against
So what you're saying is she looked at the prices and said maybe you should, I don't know, get into like reading library books or something.
Yeah, my mom to get into being her dentist, being her mechanic, or doing whatever thing was too expensive for her to pay for. Mowing her lawn.
Son, here's a great hobby for you. In my case, it was my brother who has been our business partner for years, and he was a very committed aquarist who, the minute he realized there was such a thing as reef aquariums back in, this must have been the early 90s, it became his go-to hobby. So he was always a great resource for me.
Boomers.
All right, so number 2 in terms of resources where you get your info, that would be the local fish groups, and I think you know a whole lot more about that than me. We have some very good ones in Phoenix, and there's a lot of good ones around the country.
Yeah, I think it may depend. I actually don't think we have a very strong one in Phoenix, but this is all relative.
Yeah.
You know, I say we don't have a very strong one in Phoenix, and Phoenix is the fifth largest city in the country. I'm sure that if you went into LA or parts of Florida, there'd be much, much bigger aquarium societies. And I think the thing that's kind of hard about the fish groups is their collections of fish geeks, and they're not really gearing your info towards beginners. So I think a lot of people join these groups after you've had a tank and had some success, and you really want someone to geek out about because your friends and family are tired of you explaining why your new Acropora is so cool.
So basically, you show up to the fish group, and you're not a very, well, I'll just say it, an attractive 25-year-old woman, and you know nothing about aquariums, and you're like, I'm going to start an aquarium, please explain how to do everything. You're not going to get a good response.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they'll be nice. Like our local group, they're very nice and very friendly, but basically their meetings consist of meeting at a restaurant or bar and just talking about fish stuff. But when I've been there, the topics have been things like the details of life spectrum, identifying different species of plate coral, whether fungia or cycloceres, and how you look at the corallites. These are not generally... they're not generally normal beginner topics, so I think it can be lots of fun to be part of one of those groups once you're in, but I think for a beginner, it's really hard to get a lot of beginner info from that, unless you have a personal relationship with one person. So what we kind of mentioned earlier with friends and family, I mean, I just didn't have good friends. You had Paul, your brother, who really knew about it. If you know someone who's really nerdy and part of one of those groups, asking them individually is probably a really good way to get some information. But those big groups, they're probably going to have presentations on some really nerdy, geeky stuff that may be a bit much for a beginner.
All right, so fish groups, great for usually, in most cases, somebody who knows something, and not a great way to get started.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, moving on. I always like the books because, I mean, you just saw some really beautiful aquariums, and here's Ultimate Marine Aquariums, and it would show a picture of a beautiful aquarium and list all the equipment. Other books, devoted to all the different types of fish. Some books are more step by step. I highly recommend some of the books if you can find them, by Paletta and Sprung and Delbeck. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yeah, I mean, books are great. What I will say is people are writing less books. So one of the downsides to books is there's not a lot of modern books that are going to give you up-to-date information on how people set tanks up today. They're going to reference lighting technology that's fluorescence and metal halides when now everything is LEDs. They're going to reference some older equipment. But there's a few things I think the books are really, really, really good for. This Dr. Burgess book, I went and grabbed this. Dave didn't have it on the table, and I grabbed it. I think every hobbyist should have, if not this book, some book like it. And this is basically a species identification guide. So if you're ever going to a fish store and you're like, what is that fish? It makes it very easy to have a book like this that sorts the fish into different groups, lets you identify what the fish is, where it comes from, how big it's going to be, what its diet is. That's going to give you a lot of helpful information when it comes to its care. And just by how thick this is, and this book is old. I think this is a 20-year-old book.
But God is not inventing new fish very quickly.
No.
So nothing's changed.
So that is true, but we are discovering new fish. So even though this book doesn't have all the fish, it's still really thick. And it's just a really good thing for a hobbyist to have a species ID guide to help you know what are the requirements of the animals you're keeping. And I do think a book is probably the best way to have that.
Looks great on the coffee table. We stopped selling books some time ago. These are just books we've collected because people stopped buying books a long time ago. And so, but we love the books. All right, we'll talk about, we'll get to Taylor Swift and Sel, and I think Sel's going to wow you with some, Taylor Swift does have a lot to say about aquariums. But we're just going to delve into the local fish store. We are online retailers, but we love the local fish stores. Jaron used to work for one. We would not exist without the local fish stores. We need people to sell the fish. And you probably have a lot to say about the local fish stores. All I have to say is, if you go into a local fish store and you talk to somebody for an hour, buy something.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think the local fish stores are great, particularly for beginners. I do got to stipulate this because we're going to talk later about the online forums and whatnot. But on the online forums, you often hear, oh, the fish stores are horrible. They don't know what they're talking about. And then I think, who are these random people on these forums? How do I know they know what they're talking about? So I think when you go to a fish store, I would just say, look at their tanks. I tell every fish store they should have a display tank. And if you look at that display tank and you go, that is beautiful. That's what I want in my house. Well, they did that somehow. So you can kind of ask them what they're doing. And there's just so many things your fish store can do that we can't do. I'm happy to sell aquarium products to people. But at the fish store, I remember things like, how do I tune my protein skimmer? Well, we've put videos on that. We can describe it to you over the phone. But at the fish store, someone can walk you over, show you the skimmer, and show you how they're adjusting it. It's just a degree of service and experience that you can't get any other way. And for a beginner, just to be able to come in person, see something that's beautiful, and say, you know what you're doing, what do I need to do to figure this out? I think it's a great resource.
Excellent. And, if maybe for some people, a service company, I didn't even include it in here, but, if you hire a service company, and many of them are associated with local fish stores, well, you don't even have to learn this stuff. Or maybe you can learn stuff from the service company.
Yeah, and many of the service guys also say you can pay a consultation fee. So if you're stuck with something in your aquarium, you have a bad disease outbreak or you have a bad algae outbreak, a lot of them will say, $75, I'll show up, I'll test your water, and I'll just tell you what I do. Even if you don't need them to do long-term maintenance, you can pay them to do a house visit and kind of give you some advice.
All right. Initially, I called this segment Online Chat Rooms, but Carlos here informed me that chat rooms are something else. I don't want to know. He said to call them forums or message boards. He was pretty insistent about that.
And what year were you born again? Before the internet, right?
I was one of the first people on the planet to use the internet, and one of the first people to use a cell phone. So, all right. Moving on. So, I know we're a sponsor of Reef to Reef.
Reef to Reef. Mm-hmm.
And so that obviously is the best online forum. Yes, forum. Do you think the quality of information, which is often peer-to-peer, is really good there? Are there moderators who keep things in line? What can you get from an online?
I would say there's moderators who keep things civil. That has not been the case on some other forums. It is one of the nice things about Reef to Reef is things are kept civil. I think the hard thing about the forums is there's a lot of people on the forums who are true experts. I think on Reef to Reef you'll see some well-known people on the forum. You'll see Randy Holmes Farley, who is a PhD chemist who will answer your chemistry questions. You'll see people like Richard Ross, who's the curator at Steinhardt Aquarium, and he knows a whole lot about what he's talking about. There's also people like me who are in this industry and may know some things. But you also can get somebody who's had a fish for 2 months and is posting on the forum answering people's questions. And what I would just suggest if you're looking on the forums is, first off, before you listen to someone, the proof is in the pudding. On the forums, there's a build badge where people can link to their tank. Again, if you look at that tank and it's beautiful and it's what you want, someone to listen to, look at how long they've been on there. They've been on there for 10 years. That means they've been in reef aquariums for 10 years. How many posts they have, if they're actively involved. It's kind of a sign it's someone who may know a little bit more. And the other thing I'll say is that I think one of the problems with the forums and with a lot of information is there's a lot of ways to keep a reef aquarium, just like there's a lot of ways to bake a cake. And sometimes what people do is they look at like 4 people and they say, well, this person said, I'm going to do some organic carbon dosing. And this person said, I'm going to use these trace elements. And this person said, but what that's kind of like is looking at 3 different cake recipes and throwing ingredients from each of them all in one pot. So even if those recipes work, you got to follow one recipe at a time. So a lot of my advice to beginners is when you're looking at your fish store, the internet, pick someone who you really trust.
Who has a beautiful aquarium.
Has a beautiful aquarium, who's proven they have a beautiful aquarium. Follow the recipe. And kind of like in cooking, once you followed the recipe and learned how to cook, then you can say, oh, I think it'd be a little bit better with just a little more flour or whatever. So when you're learning, follow someone's recipe. Once you've done the recipe, then you can kind of tweak it a little bit based on what you've learned. But for right away, I'd say follow someone and follow their recipe.
Excellent. And just, just talking about this, the subject here is where do you get your info? But, in a sense, we're also talking about where do you share your learning? And that's probably one of the great joys of this hobby is sharing what you know. And, the local fish group and the forums and the message boards are probably a great way to, maybe your partner is tired of hearing about this stuff. And, maybe it shouldn't dominate the Thanksgiving conversation, and maybe these people are a little bit more interested in what you're talking about. So, I have to imagine YouTube videos are almost the core of information these days, and there's some really good ones, and we've put up some good videos. I think Jaron has been really good at explaining things, but we only have so many videos. There's a couple other companies out there you may have heard of. I'm not going to mention that. Okay, Bulk Reef Supply, who has a few more videos than us, and they're good. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to pretend they're not exceptional, and there are a lot of good videos out there. Before I ask you what you think, I'll just say that we're trying to have kind of a database of videos that I think are going to address the major topics with aquarium keeping. And if I was to differentiate this from a lot of what Bulk Reef Supply does, I think a lot of their videos are trying to promote a specific product. But I think we are trying. The latest video was priming a canister filter. That video is not specifically selling anything. It's selling knowledge, and hopefully people appreciate it. We're not specifically trying to sell a product. We're selling, mostly it's Jaron's knowledge. We are sharing knowledge of, and partly it's because you've been on the phone with a lot of people. How do I prime my canister filter? I'm pumping this thing and nothing's working.
Yeah, a lot of what spurs us to do videos is people will email or call and put some questions in, and I just realize it's really hard to explain this, or I've explained this a half dozen times. Maybe I should just make a video that I can send people to explaining this, because I know it's a question that you guys are asking. And I think internet videos, just like anything else, and make sure those people know what they're talking about. They can keep beautiful aquariums. I think the hard thing, and something we try to hopefully have a pretty neutral opinion, is a lot of people doing these videos are either sponsored by some brand, or they're given something for free, or they're owning one of the things they're showing off. While we do sell stuff, there's only one thing we sell that we own, just the nuclear filters. But everything else,
which is the best.
Which
filter
are the best
on the
filter. Those are the best filter.
That's it's just a fact.
It's a way to fix all of your problems. But I think that maybe one thing we do is, because we don't own, majority of the stuff we sell we buy from manufacturers, but we haven't been given anything free from manufacturers to do a video on. I think maybe we help you guys compare, show how these products work a little bit more unbiasedly, so you can get some info. And a lot like these canister filter videos that we just did, they're not really selling anything. They're just how do you do this? How do you prime your canister filter? So hopefully that's a good source of info for you.
for all the products on all the websites out there, there is some information. So obviously, retailers of aquarium products have information about those products on their website. We've tried to have accurate information on our website. Sometimes we have to rewrite what is on the manufacturer website because quite often it's not the most important. Sometimes it disagrees with what's on the box.
Yeah.
So it is important to us. And by the way, Sel finds a lot of mistakes I make.
Yeah.
But beyond that, internet retailers, we're trying to put manuals on the internet, so look for those. And but kind of what you were saying about the videos. I've looked at various websites like these are the best aquariums, these are the best protein skimmers, these are the best UV sterilizers. Yeah, I mean, they're biased. I mean, I'm not saying some payment was made, but don't even look to us to be completely unbiased. There is bias.
Yeah, there's bias for multiple reasons,
but less from us than other people.
Yeah, we can be biased because we really, really like something. Yeah. We can be biased because the rep treats us well and someone else doesn't treat us well. And as much as we try to not do it, it's like, I don't want to sell that guy stuff. He was really rude to me.
Yeah.
So we do our best to just kind of give you the specs on the website. And if you do call, you can ask for personal experience. Sometimes people call and say, well, what do you use on your tank? And they may give you a decision. If we have at least a half dozen plus different pump brands, which of those do you actually use in your home tank? So that's always a good question. If you're actually calling in or if you're emailing us, you can find out what we personally use. There's probably a better indication versus which has the most banner ads or whatever on whatever internet site.
So I'm just going to fold the next topic into this topic and just say flat out that information on Amazon.com regarding aquarium products is horrific. I just, I don't know if you know the way Amazon's created, but it's created not by Amazon. The listings, the pictures, are created by third-party sellers such as ourselves. We do our best, but often the people out there know nothing about aquarium products.
No.
Some of these companies sell Kleenex, Barbie dolls, aquarium products, books, who knows what. And they're just throwing something up there from a spreadsheet, and sometimes it's just a completely wrong picture, and Amazon doesn't know what's what. So do not get information for the aquarium industry from Amazon. I think maybe at some level with your
whatever
Apple
sales
products or whatever
is needed to get accurate information, aquarium products are not there.
Yeah.
It's the Wild West of putting stuff on Amazon.
I mean, we've had products there that were filters, and there was a picture of a doll, and how it got there, I have no idea. And for us to go to Amazon and say this is not a filter, it's a doll, it's just you get
There's not
nowhere.
A person. It's the Amazon AI machine. That you're trying to convince that the picture is wrong.
What happened with the fluval thing recently, where it was asking what dog breed?
Yeah.
What dog breed is your fluval filter?
Yeah, it categorizes things, and you have to, is this filter for men, women, both, children? What age groups? You put up a light and it's like, what material is this skirt made out of? I mean, don't get me wrong. I actually buy stuff from Amazon.
Or the little mufflers, the Maggie mufflers. And one time it was, and what automobiles did they fit? It was like, that isn't what these things are.
I mean, Amazon is not created by humans. It's created by humans who are regulated by artificial intelligence. And someday artificial intelligence can be brilliant. Amazon's artificial intelligence is, if this is brilliant, I don't know, dig a hole. I'll put my hand down there. All right. So we're just going to move on to, it's kind of a related topic, but it's customer reviews. So something about MarineAndReef.com that is unique, for better or worse, is we actually don't have customer reviews. And it was a decision I made years ago, and I regret it, but I don't. And I read customer reviews when I shop, and they have value. They definitely, and thank you to all the people who make the customer reviews. But and I'll let you go first, and then I'll share some customer reviews for products we sell on Amazon. Because as I said, we don't have customer reviews on Marine and Reef. The first thing I would say before going to you and getting back to these reviews is, remember, a customer review is made typically pretty soon after purchasing a product, and it's not made 15 years later when that pump or that chiller is still working. And I understand, there's some pretty instant feedback with a product. And in fact, it's funny, we were going to do this video with some microphones and some lights, and quite frankly, they were worthless. So,
yep.
I went back to this little microphone here, and we're just using, the warehouse lights. But, and maybe I'll review these things. But anyways, customer reviews, how accurate, how helpful are they?
I think you're totally right. There is good value to seeing what other people have thought of a particular aquarium item. And I say, there's times I look at those. There's times when I'm looking at what product we should bring in, I'll look at customer reviews. But I also have learned a whole bunch of things. One is that most reviews happen pretty quick after purchase. They're not happening 5 years or 10 years later. And that kind of goes two ways, because sometimes the best feature of a product is that it lasts 20 years. But nobody is putting a review up 20 years later. Yeah. And sometimes the worst feature of a product is it only lasts 2 years. Yeah. But generally 2 years later, a lot of times these websites screen for recent purchases, and then they're not going to put it up. So you don't get that longevity. They also screen the reviews. And I mean, you really have to make sure there's not profanity or anything inappropriate in these reviews.
But who knows what is
screened
deleted,
out that is not in the reviews. Yeah. And then the other thing is, just to be honest, people are much more willing to put a review up if they're really upset than if they're really happy. If they're really happy, they don't think anything of it. If they're really upset, they'll post the reviews. They always tend to skew a bit negative on average, and I don't know.
Yeah, reviews
there's a whole lot of problems.
There's no 3-star review. It's 1 or 2, 4 or 5, and mostly they're 5, and then there are 1s, and they average out to a whatever. And
you can buy them. I mean, we've been approached by companies saying, "How would you like to put reviews on your product? We will generate them for you." And that's just the truth.
I can't speak to any website other than Amazon, but just do a Google search. Amazon. There's a lot of reviews that are fake. So there are reviews for things we sell on Amazon, and I was looking at some reviews of some Core Life BioCube packages we were selling, and I won't get into all this person said, but they were incensed that we didn't include the salt water. So this is a 30-gallon aquarium that they paid, and it was kind of all the bells and whistles, so maybe it was $800, $900. And they're like, "Where's my 30 gallons of salt water?" 30 gallons of salt water is not that expensive. And I don't mind including it, but 30 gallons of salt water is 240 pounds.
Yeah.
Which means it's 5, if it's roughly 50-pound packages, it's almost 5. You get a 50-pound package anywhere in the United States, it doesn't matter what it is, automatically you get the overweight charge, and it's going to be $30. So you're talking $200 in shipping. So this person,
ship water, that comes out of the faucet.
Yeah.
And you, I don't know. Some people that's what they.
Oh, they have an exclamation point here.
Yeah,
they felt really strong about that.
That their aquarium didn't come with water.
This guy felt he was like, we ripped him off because we didn't send him the live sand that obviously was pictured. It was Carib Sea sand that looked as dry as the desert. that it looked as dry as Arizona. And it, like,
well,
he gave us a 1-star review.
The review is not that it said it was live and it wasn't. It was that it looked live.
It looked live.
And I'll tell you, I've seen live sand, and no live sand I've seen looks live. It looks like sand in some water. So I don't know how the sand looked alive.
He was like, send me that live sand. I'll change it from a 1-star review. Probably give us 2 stars.
Well, yeah, because there is review extortion.
All right. And this guy was, I don't know what it is about sand. This guy was mad because we sent him crushed coral and not sand. It was gray and dirty, and it killed all his fish. Hundreds of dollars worth. Because it says it's crushed coral. That's probably what you want to use in a reef tank. Carib Sea crushed coral, best brand on the market, but it killed his fish.
Yeah, this is probably someone who bought reef sand probably for a freshwater tank, but it says reef sand all over the package, and reef sand is...
Oh, did he buy the
coral.
reef packet? He bought the reef package.
Yeah, he probably bought the reef stuff for the freshwater tank, even though it says reef pack, it has reef sand, and it says aragonite, and it says what it is. So you're just going to get people who are buying things they shouldn't buy. Like Mr. My Maggie muffler didn't fit my Toyota Corolla. 1 star.
But don't get us wrong. I mean, we have learned a lot from reviews, and 9 out of 10 reviews actually are pretty accurate, and we just get frustrated with that 1 out of 10.
Yep.
And so customer reviews can be very useful. I use them. So it's just we're a little biased because we sell things.
Some people.
Yeah. All right, we'll move on to our final topic before we get to the most interesting topic, which is what Taylor Swift knows about aquariums, and we'll talk about manufacturers. Quite often, we recommend to people they talk to the manufacturer, and people do not want to contact the manufacturer, and I understand why. The last time I tried to contact a manufacturer was about a microwave oven, and I called the number and it didn't work. I sent an email, and this was like Whirlpool, and then I tried the online chat, and I literally could not even get a hold of them. So I get it, and some manufacturers are harder to get a hold of than others. But the reality is the manufacturers know a lot. They know more about their products than anybody else, or they should. 9 out of 10 there's 1 out of 10 who doesn't because they're just private labeling and importing.
Yeah.
But Kessel, Coralview, Coralife, they may not be a fish geek, they may not be an aquarist, but you start talking about all the parts that go into a canister filter, all the parts that go into an all-in-one aquarium, or all the parts that go into an LED light. They know that. They don't know the theory.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and the other reason to go to the manufacturer is, if there is a problem with a product, they should know about it right away. And we've actually run into situations where there were problems with products that were dangerous, that could have started fires.
Yeah.
And, of course, we contacted the manufacturer, but it's important manufacturers have this information. And it's always been our policy, if you can't get a hold of the manufacturer, we'll take care of the warranty.
Yeah, I'd say a lot of these manufacturers, sometimes we mentioned earlier biases you might have. Some of my biases have come due to just the fantastic service I've gotten from some manufacturers and the non-existent service that I've gotten from others.
Yeah.
So, I'll shout out some that I really like. Brightwell Aquatics.
Yeah.
A while ago, Brightwell came out with its product, Boost pH, or I think it's Boost pH. It could be pH Boost. And they're like, it raises pH without changing alkalinity. Now, I know Dave probably doesn't know why that's an amazing thing, but I thought, there's no way.
But I'll just
that's got to be chemically impossible. But when I called Brightwell, I get Jack Kent, the owner, and he says,
nice guy.
What question do you have? And I said, I want to know how this product works. does it really boost pH without alkalinity? And he's like, well, it does raise alkalinity, but the boost is so disproportional that nobody should notice the boost. And then he explained kind of what the combination of fluids were in that he was using and how it would affect the chemistry and exactly how to use it and how they've modified the product over years along with the dosing instructions. And he gave me a lot of info about it that, the only way I can tell you that info is because I asked them. So sometimes it's better to go straight to them. Another shout out I'll give to some of my favorite manufacturers is Tunzi. Roger at Tunzi USA, he's active on the Reef to Reef forum. He has given fantastic customer service to me for close to 10 years now, where I would have skimmers from him that were, at the time, even 10 years old.
Just to interject,
yeah,
he actually is, he's an importer.
Yeah, so Tunzi USA is the office of Tunzi Germany.
Yeah.
But there is one U.S. office that is Roger.
So sometimes people don't know anything because they're just importing stuff. This guy knows stuff. He's the exception.
And he's given me details like this has changed 3 times over the manufacturing cycle. This is what it is now. This is our target lifespan. These are the different parts. It is incredibly detailed, the information he has. And he's an actual aquarium keeper with actual fish. So one thing I will say when you're making decisions is if you're on the fence on, like, say, 2 skimmers or 2 lights, I would call each of them and just see if they answer the phone and see if the person on the phone cares and knows what they're talking about, because that really helps sway me. Over time in dealing with these people, a lot of times the reason I might like one brand over another is I know that the service I'm going to get from one brand is a lot better than another brand.
And there are things, as Jaron was saying, that only the manufacturer knows. Sometimes a product, over the life cycle of the product, it looks the same on the outside. It's coming in the same box. It has the same UPC code. But for whatever reason, maybe they couldn't get a part. They changed it. And not always... maybe it's a power supply.
And they don't tell us.
With a different connector.
Yeah.
And so it seems like it's the same product, but you pretty much usually you have to go to the manufacturer. It could be because of the serial number. They know, what the proper replacement part is. It could be just something visual they can see. But we've seen this with a lot of electronic stuff that, for whatever reason, maybe because they couldn't get something, Well,
especially during COVID, a lot of people switched parts. And one thing I tell people is, we have over 5,000 different aquarium products. We're really proud of that. Yeah. I try to use as many of those products as I can. I don't have enough aquariums to have used all of those products. So there's things that I can give you personal experience on, but there's some things where the manufacturer is going to know more. And we're spending a lot of time on this just because of how often we do refer people, and they could be a bit grumpy of how come you don't know it. We know as much as we can know, but there's just some things that are beyond that. And again, if you haven't called some of these manufacturers, some of them really are great people. People I mentioned some people I've had relationships with. So that can help encourage you to realize that one brand may be a good one.
Excellent. So those are the topics. No, we have one more topic, don't we?
We got the most interesting topic.
Yeah. So I have no idea what's going to happen here. So next up, we're going to talk with Sal. All right, so what does Taylor Swift know about aquariums that everybody should know?
Okay, so Taylor Swift actually has experience acting as a fish. Okay, she's very method. Okay, I don't know if you know this, but she is a talented musician, amazing actress, and for her music video for the single Lover off of the album Lover, obviously. There is a part in the music video where she is in a giant fishbowl swimming around in circles, and it is metaphor about her life as a famous woman and being seen through a lens of everybody else, living in a glass fishbowl because she feels like she's just trapped and watched constantly, which I think makes her an expert about fish because she knows what it feels like to live like a fish in a fishbowl. And hold on, I'll show you the proof.
Proof?
There's the fishbowl.
I will,
Taylor Swift in a
I will,
fishbowl.
We can put the image.
Yeah,
up.
I'm
Yeah.
going to attest
We
to
don't
the
know
fact
what's
that. Now, does she do her own stunts?
She does.
All
There,
right, so
there
that
are
wa-
behind
that-
the scenes videos
That
of
wasn't
her.
some CGI stuff.
Oh
She-
no, she swam in that water, and it was cold.
So, if you want to talk to Taylor, do you got her digits or is she?
That's confidential.
That's kind.
That's
But
between-
you have it.
That's
All
between
right.
me and Taylor.
That's the Swiftie code.
Yeah. Yeah.
So any of you Swifties out there who happen to know Taylor's digits, and
won't
you
give it
want
to
to you want to understand your fish better and what it's like to be in this fishbowl, being gazed upon.
Yeah.
In her case, by more than a couple people. I hear she sells like dozens of records a year.
Oh.
Give,
At the very least.
give Taylor a call.
Not everybody has a Jaron. Everybody has a Taylor Swift.
All right. Or everybody thinks they. I won't go there. All right. So thank you very much. You've just been experiencing either a MarineAndReef.com video or a podcast. We shoot them at the same time. And I think next up, we're going to dive right into actually putting an aquarium together.
Dive like Taylor Swift did during the Eras tour. Right into the stage after the surprise songs. It was night 2. It was amazing. Nobody knew it was coming. We thought that she'd hit the floor.
Was there water there?
She dives underneath the stage. I don't know what's under there. Oh, wow. But there's water on the stage.
There's water on the stage.
Yeah.
Was there supposed to be water?
It's effects. That one is effects.
That was a CGI thing.
But there might be water underneath the stage. I don't know.
Oh,
I wasn't there.
With her order.
They ship it on the trucks every week.
All right. So next up, we're either going to do just a Taylor Swift rockumentary,
Okay.
or we're going to talk more about aquariums and maybe a little bit of both.
I have
Thank
a
you.
bias.